How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another video. With Silent Hill 2 Remake just over the horizon, I think it's about time to revisit the staple and what made the original one of the best survival horror games of all time. And that staple is none other than Silent Hill's fearsome executioner, Pyramid Head. Undoubtedly one of the most iconic horror villains of all time, Red Pyramid Thing as it's more traditionally referred to as, set the standard for horrific character design and deep abstract narratives within the survival horror genre. In this video, we'll be delving into everything that is Pyramid Head, explaining the idea behind his design, what his role was in Silent Hill 2, and what his true underlying meaning was to James Sunderland. I do want to caution that there will be spoilers ahead, but without further ado, let's get right into it. Before we get started, I want to mention that we will not be covering Silent Hill Homecoming, Downpour, any film adaptations, as well as any spin-offs regarding Pyramid Head, as these do not align canonically with the first 4 games. We'll be strictly covering his appearance inside of Silent Hill 2. With that out of the way, let's start where it all began. During the early development of Silent Hill 2, Team Silent realized that they needed to implement a terrifying chaser enemy to advance the role of James's subconscious inside of the game. A stalker enemy, if you will, that would be able to evoke a sense of an unknown horror. Many of you Silent Hill fans will know that Masahiro Ito was the main art director during the creation of the first 3 Silent Hill games. During his drafting stage of Silent Hill 2, he actually created several designs of James's inner monster before finally settling on the iconic Pyramid Head creature. The idea that he had in mind was some sort of monster with a hidden face. He believed that if you couldn't see its face, then it would appear less human and therefore be more terrifying. The first concept that he ever created was this humanoid being wearing some sort of a white mask. The overall physique of the creature is very similar to Pyramid Head, but there was one problem. Ito realized that instead of evoking that sense of an unknown horror, the creature just looked like a human wearing a regular mask, and it really didn't provide that same sense of dread. Therefore, this design was ultimately scrapped, but after this, Ito began to brainstorm some more. He realized that he needed to create something more mysterious, something far more puzzling to comprehend. It is here that Pyramid Head finally began to come to life. Interestingly, Ito happened to be a tank enthusiast. Therefore, the edges of Pyramid Head's helmet was inspired from the lower hull of a German tank used in World War II known as the King Tiger. The overall concept of the iconic pyramid-shaped helmet came from one of Ito's acrylic paintings that he made back in 1995. As you can see, the anthropomorphic pyramid design bears a striking resemblance to the iconic pyramid helmet that we're all used to. The fine edges converging into a sharp point evokes the idea of torment and punishment, which is exactly the symbolic essence of the character's design that Ito was aiming to create. It's because of Pyramid Head's mysterious and perplexing design that many people began to wonder what was beyond the helmet. It is apparent that there is indeed something behind it, as we can see a tongue protrude from out of the helmet at certain times when he attacks James. However, it is not known what actually lies beneath the Red Pyramid. And in fact, the closest to an answer that we've gotten is from Ito himself. He states, "I didn't design and make Pyramid Head's face, but I have an image of what's inside the helmet in those days. It's someone's head binded with many frames." This is obviously hard to understand as Ito's trying to translate from Japanese, but I think we can get a basic idea. Whether this head bound in several frames is purely aesthetic or symbolic is unknown, but many do tend to believe that James's face is actually what's behind the helmet. Although this has been left unconfirmed by Ito because he wants to preserve the mysterious aspect of Pyramid Head's character. You see, keeping Pyramid Head as more of a symbol than a concrete character not only makes him more interesting, but also much more intimidating as an enemy. But now that we know the concept behind Pyramid Head's overall design, let's move on to his lore within Silent Hill 2. Pyramid Head's role throughout the timeline of Silent Hill 2 is heavily debated by fans of the game, and there are mixed opinions of his true purpose to James Sunderland. It's obviously confirmed that he is a manifestation of James's guilt for killing his wife, but it's just as obvious that there is much more bubbling below the surface. Based on factual pieces of evidence that I've been able to gather, there is one theory on Pyramid Head's true origins and purpose that I will elaborate on. First of all, it's been confirmed by Ito himself that Pyramid Head's role within Silent Hill 2 is inspired by a quote from the 1990 film Jacob's Ladder. The quote reads, "The only thing that burns in hell is the part of you that won't let go of life, your memories, your attachments." They burn them all away. But they're not punishing you, he said. They're freeing your soul. So the way he sees it, if you're frightened of dying and you're holding on, you'll see devils tearing your life away. But if you've made your peace, then the devils are really angels, freeing you from the earth. It's just a matter of how you look at it, that's all. This might not make a lot of sense right now, but I promise you that you'll understand all of this soon enough. According to the official book of Lost Memories, much of Silent Hill's lore is grounded in Freud's psychoanalytic theories. And by the way, I want to thank Max Durrott for shedding light onto this theory that I'll be explaining. The link to his channel will be in the description. However, I have a slightly different take on what he brought to light. There is one of Freud's psychoanalytic theories that I think could be heavily applied to James's experiences within Silent Hill 2, and that is Freud's psychoanalytic theory of personality. The basic idea is that there's 3 fundamental parts of everyone's personality. These parts are the id, the ego, and the superego. Now, the first part, the id, is composed of all primal human desires. It does not think, it has no guilt, and it does not care about the ramifications that it causes as long as it gets what it wants. These are known to be the bad, dark traits of everyone's personality, which can comprise traits such as pride, greed, lust, sloth, and several other characteristics. The second part of our personality, the superego, acts as our moral guidance. It is always concerned with what is socially acceptable and always aims to do the right thing. These traits are picked up through what we've been taught was right our entire lives, through our parents, the morals of our society, and several other factors. The last part of our personality, the ego, essentially acts as the mediator between the id and superego. It's the most conscious part of our mind that follows the reality principle, trying to satisfy what our id wants but in a socially acceptable way. In order for this to not sound like a psychology lesson, take a look at this cartoon illustration. You've likely seen this concept at some point in your life, the angel on the right shoulder and the devil on the left shoulder. This is a great example of Freud's psychoanalytic theory of personality. The devil essentially acts as the id, the irresponsible pleasure seeker, and the angel acts as the superego, the moral guidance. That leaves the ego in the middle, trying to decide which aspects of the id and superego to act on. If we alter this image just a bit, we can see how this applies to James in Silent Hill 2. Now how the roles are assigned appear much more transparent to the story. We have Maria acting as the id of James's consciousness, Pyramid Head acting as the superego, and James himself acting as the mediator between the two. In Maria's case, she is a manifestation of James's conscience that doesn't allow him to come to terms with the death of his wife Mary. It's why he keeps confusing her with his wife throughout the entire game, and why James holds on to this false sense of hope that Mary is still alive. You see, James can't bear the fact that he killed his wife after she fell ill, even convincing himself that it was a mercy act, even though he truly knew it was an act of selfishness. So we've mentioned that Maria is the id, so that leaves Pyramid Head as the superego, who tries to push him to come to terms with his guilt over Mary so that he can stop living a lie. In a way, he's trying to liberate James from his delusion that Mary's death was not his fault. This is why he grows more and more determined to attack James throughout the game, as he keeps refusing to come to terms with his guilt. A perfect example of this is when James fires his handgun at Pyramid Head within the apartment closet, symbolizing the repression of his guilt and further feeding into his id. We can also see Pyramid Head's determination to free James as he comes back stronger and stronger throughout the game. At first, he wields the Great Knife. Afterwards, he holds a spear that allows him to move faster. And lastly, he splits into two different entities, this time both wielding spears. We can also see Pyramid Head's motivation to enlighten James as he attempts to kill Maria throughout the game. Maria, being the physical embodiment of James's delusions, is the sole problem for him failing to come to terms with his guilt. So in turn, Pyramid Head attempts to rid him of this baggage. James acknowledges this fact once Pyramid Head kills Maria once and for all.
I was weak. That's why I needed you. Needed someone to punish me for my sins. But that's all over now. I know the truth. Now it's time to end this.
By the way, if you guys want to see in-depth analysis videos on both James and Maria, be sure to leave a comment down below. But aside from that, there's still one bewildering aspect of Pyramid Head's character that is still left to question, and that is what in the world was going on in these scenes. Yep, the famous Pyramid Head assault scenes. It has been a massive debate among Silent Hill fans on whether or not Pyramid Head is a While Ito himself has stated that Pyramid Head's attack on the mannequins do look sexual, he wasn't outright assaulting them. In fact, it has been confirmed that he is indeed just killing them, and Ito never intended for these scenes to be interpreted in a sexual way. The same way how he never intended the mannequins and nurses to be symbolic of James's sexual frustration. In terms of the symbolic meanings of these quote-unquote assault scenes, my theory is that the act of Pyramid Head manhandling these mannequins could represent him trying to force James to remember what he did to Mary. Again, that's just my theory, but you guys can take what you want from it. Moving back to the quote from Jacob's Ladder, we can now see how this heavily applies to James's situation within the story. This part of James that he can't let go of is his refusal to come to terms with his guilt for what he did to Mary, which in turn gave way to the manifestation of Maria. But in a way, Pyramid Head burnt all these delusions away. He is not punishing James, but rather freeing him. Although taking on the appearance of a devil, he acted as an angel, liberating James from the wall of lies that he enclosed himself in. But now that we're familiar with Pyramid Head's overall role within Silent Hill 2's story, let's talk about why it was him that James chose to manifest. Although massive light has been shed onto Pyramid Head's role in the story of Silent Hill 2, there's still one more obscure detail. Why did Pyramid Head take the form that he did through James's manifestation? Why wasn't it a ghost or spirit, for example? Why did he take the form of this terrifying pyramid-headed executioner? Well, this can be explained through the background of Silent Hill 2. The mysterious cult known as the Order that resonated in much of Silent Hill's earlier history had a sub-following known as the Valtiel sect. This group worshipped the deity known as Valtiel, who was known to be close with the entity God, but most importantly, he was a fearsome executioner. Therefore, the cult's followers began participating in ritualistic executions within the town, shown specifically in this image known as the Crimson and White Banquet for the Gods. These cultists bear a striking resemblance to Pyramid Head with the giant red pyramid-shaped hoods and executioner garbs. It was this same image that was put on display within the Silent Hill Historical Society Museum to exhibit the town's earlier history. It is known that James took Mary to Silent Hill right before she contracted her illness. Therefore, it's very likely that they both visited the Historical Society where James in turn saw this portrait. Resonating in his mind, this embodiment of judgment likely manifested into this exaggerated masculine executioner that is Pyramid Head. We know that the fog and other worlds are able to distort reality within Silent Hill, so it's a definite possibility that this is also how Pyramid Head came to be, forever leaving his mark within the history of Silent Hill, and advancing the series into one of the most well-known survival horror titles of all time. But that's going to be the end of today's video. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more horror game lore and discussion videos. But thank you all for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.